Hi there, I'm Steve Glaudini, producing artistic director for Moonlight Stage Productions, and joining me today is a conversation with Jamie Torcellini.
It's so good to see your face.
You too, my little puddin'. So I've been starting these interviews with, how are you holding up?
I'm good. I feel like I feel like I'm one of the lucky ones. Chuck is working from home, so uh, that's good. At the first couple of days when I was home, um, we got I was in the middle of rehearsal for a play at the Rubicon, and we got sent home, and he was still going to Disney for work, and that was freaking me out. So when he got put onto working from home, it was like such a relief.
Yeah.
And then I got the puppies. So
You got your babies, got your boys.
yeah, I mean that's everything.
Yeah.
So plus which, you know what? To tell you the honest truth, I have been practicing for this my whole life. Just being just being at home.
Yeah, right.
I love it. I love the work. I miss the people. I miss the hugs.
Yeah.
But you know, I love being home with my family. So
Like you said, it could be so much more worse than you have it, and you have a beautiful home.
yeah, you know, listen, if you start feeling really bad about it, you always just got to think about the nurses that got to show up every day. There is no break. You know, it's in the middle of it, and that's not us. You know, we're lucky. My hardest part of the day is if I have to go to the store, and then you put on your hazmat suit and you freak out, like, oh my god, and then that's it. So we have it easy, you know.
Yeah, it's for me, it's so bizarre because right now we would have opened American in Paris last week.
Right?
We would have had your second week of Something Rotten
Oh,
rehearsal, and Equity would be joining us on Memorial Day, and so this is I'm just, my body doesn't know what to do because normally we're so busy with no days off to
yeah.
being at home 24/7, and so Bets gets so mad at me, but I have to say, oh well, today would have been first rehearsal, would have been this, but I have to do that for my sanity to know that.
Well, I did too, but I also had to do it because I wanted to honor those people that we cast for Something Rotten. I mean, I posted something on our first, what would have been our first non-equity rehearsal day, and that was a hard one to let go of, and mostly because not only was I in love with that show and how funny it was, but the cast that we got,
So good.
the cast that we got would have been party a
Yeah.
party, and I was excited for each one of those performers to meet the next performer that they didn't know that we hired, because each one of them was brilliant, and I thought, oh, they're gonna love this, they're
Yeah.
gonna love us for putting them together. And that, that was the hardest thing for me, that and not working with Colleen, because with a show like that, come on.
Yeah.
Colleen
Well,
and I would've,
it's like, when you get a paper cut and you squeeze lemon in it. The brilliant Stan Cohen always makes these cheat sheets for us as directors because we cast shows months in advance, and he sent me all the cheat sheets for the summer. And you, like you said, you just look at that company that was hired, and there wouldn't have been a dry eye from all the tears of streaming down people's cheeks from all the laughter that would have been in the Moonlight this summer.
yeah.
So let's segue. Speaking of laughter, at the Moonlight, you made your debut 13 years ago in 2007. Was it Me and My Girl? And the reason I know that is because I had just started working at Musical Theater West, and you and I directed and choreographed Pirates of Penzance. And then you had to leave Long Beach to start Me and My Girl, and I left to start West Side Story.
Correct.
And
So you would know better than me, because I remember everything from 1979 till about 86, and then there's a huge section where I'm like, I don't remember. All I know is I did Me and My Girl for like 15 years.
Yeah.
Once a year I would do it somewhere.
You were brilliant. You were brilliant.
I loved that show, and it was, for me, that was Don and Bonnie, who I grew up with, and Don directed me in my first show at San Diego Junior Theater, and Bonnie was my first dance teacher ever.
Yeah.
And then I was so ensconced in their theatrical life with Brightside and Starlight and San Diego Junior Theater. And then when I went to college, I don't know if you know this, but I was on a work study program at USIU down in San Diego. I don't think it exists anymore, but part of my work study was to assist Bonnie Ward in tap. So I was her assistant tap teacher, which is what helped pay for my college education.
That is crazy. Well,
Yeah,
if everyone who's watching, if you may not know, Jamie was born and bred in San Diego. So he's one of our local boys who went off, had a huge career on the Broadway, and now resides in Los Angeles. And is that the house that Beauty and the Beast bought?
No, this is the house that Cats built.
Oh, that Cats built. Okay.
Say what you will about the show, I am still in the same house from 1986. It's gone through many different renovations, but I'm so glad I did it.
It's beautiful. I love your home.
Yeah, so San Diego, yeah, we had a lot of people in my class in San Diego, like Casey Nicola, who had just come over a couple of weeks ago and stayed 6 feet apart in the pool. he dropped over. Okay.
Yeah.
And Brian Stokes Mitchell. These are all the people that were in my San Diego Junior Theater time.
What I loved too is that when Betts and I saw you on Broadway in the Man of La Mancha revival that starred Brian.
With Brian.
Yes, you had the best entrance I'd ever seen as the barber. You had a better entrance than Quixote at the top of the show, or Cervantes at the top of the show. Skipping down that, how tall was it? 25 feet, 30 feet in the air?
Oh, it was much taller than that. It was much taller than that. It made it into the review. It did. That they didn't understand why I had the best entrance. Whatever. I was not scared of heights, and it was really fun to make that entrance because the whole set was sort of curved and cut on an angle. So it split apart on an angle, and then you saw all these sunflowers with rays of sunlight beaming through, and me skipping down the steps with a big backpack chair and my washing basin on my head. It's fantastic.
It was fantastic. It was fantastic. But we also have always joked that you have made a career until last year of playing roles at the Moonlight that were always Cockney. Because your first show was Bill and Me and My Girl.
It's
then
true.
You came back to my first summer season in 2013 as artistic director, and was Igor.
Igor.
Young Frankenstein. Let's talk about that.
I loved doing that show. I loved it. That was hard. That was hard to learn in that amount of time. Yeah. Because when Equity starts, you have to cram, and then you do your designer run.
You have 6 days of rehearsals before
6 days. And some of those numbers, and I come from a dancing background, those are tricky. And it's not just the steps, it's the breath control of singing while you're running back and forth on that stage. And
literally only your face got the air because you had the hood, the gloves, the boot. I mean, you were completely covered as Igor, and we got a heat wave.
Oh, that's right.
And you'd have to go and do that little improv when Mary was in there. We're having a heat wave. My favorite though was "Come and knock on our door." Your little Three's Company.
You know, full confession. You did like the fact that those were different, but not all of those were mine. I didn't have a sheet posted backstage, but I took suggestions.
Well, they were always delicious, every one of them.
So much fun. I'll tap into everyone's brilliance. I'll use it.
Well, I just never forget, there was one performance and it was like 100 degrees still at 8:30 at night. and Randy and all, on the monster prosthetics, just dripping, and you guys just were carried on like pros. But that was such an incredible company and
So much fun.
so much fun. And then you were back in the season opener the following year, Cockney as Patsy in Monty Python's Spamalot,
Right.
which was that was such a blast, because it's so rare that, Sean Murray leaves Signet to star at other theaters. So we were so lucky to get him as King Arthur, because the two of you, he was the perfect straight guy to your comic Patsy, and you two were so marvelous together.
I was so at home with him. I loved working with him. We got to make that happen again. And that show, Spamalot, again, which I believe I'm doing next summer, but on the other side of the table. That show I could do forever, because fun, really fun tap dance, nothing too hard, and just do less. Just
Well, and then you kind of get that 11 o'clock number, even though it's Arthur's, but
it is. But I get some zingers.
You get some zingers.
I get the payoffs.
And that was fun, because we got to bring Brad Bradley home, another local San Diego who went off and has a career on Broadway, and he was in the original cast and set all
Thank
of
God we had him.
Yeah. And to get to do it with the original Broadway sets and costumes, we got to do it in MTW. That was my last show before leaving for Moonlight. But then to get to do it here was a blast. It was so much fun. So much fun. And then that same season, you were back as a Cockney, this time as Alfie Doolittle in My Fair Lady.
See, now I don't remember that being the same season.
Yeah, we had a British run. Like, we ended my first season with Tommy, and then we did Spamalot, Mary Poppins, and My Fair Lady. So we did like 4 British shows in a row. But you and Hillary and Hank and Jim Chovik was and Kathy Brombacher, of course, as Mrs. Higgins. And we had such a great time.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Breathing some new life into that classic, and you were heavenly.
That was so much fun. Again, another dream role. Definitely, that has been a dream role for me to want to play.
Well, I remember Carlos Mendoza, our choreographer, was saying how rare that you get a dancer in that role, because people forget that Doolittle fronts the 2 big production numbers in the show with a little bit of luck and Get Me to the Church on Time. And because you're a hoofer, Carlos really got to get you to dance, and it was really fun to really
keep up those little tacit in, didn't he? I recall a little tacit.
Yes.
I think he did. I was like, oh, okay, let's go. I'll just be drunk.
It was so wonderful. And so that kind of ended your Cockney time at the Moonlight, and then you're back in the Bronx. In the
Oh, right. So Producers was that the last?
Yeah, that was the last time you were on the stage.
Yeah.
And that was, oh my God, you as Max Bialystock, and talk about work.
That was work. Well, yeah. Are we talking about the broken foot?
Yes, I said, why don't you share with our audience what happened? That none of them would have known, because you were so brilliant.
Well, unless you really looked really closely at my feet, because I had those surgical slippers.
Yeah.
So I sort of scooted. But yeah, it was the first day on the set, and I wanted to make one of those quick exit entrances work. And so you had to go out the closet and flip around and come in the side door. But the deck of the unit is black, and the deck of our stage is black. And where the 2 meet, you can't tell. I could not distinguish. We didn't have house lights or anything. It was the first day on the set. And I was like, okay, if I turn here, I'm going to have to turn here. I was really working it out choreographically. And it was so loud, the snap, that I could hear the gasps, well, over my gasps. I'm sure I was like, it's okay, Maddie. He always does that when I gasp. He always looks up like something's wrong. That was my dog. Yeah, and I broke it right then, and I knew exactly that I had broken it, because I had broken the other one 20 years ago, maybe, but I know what that feels like. So anyway, we had to do the whole show with me with a broken foot. And I didn't really know how that was going to go because it was really hard to walk at first.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, you want to think your gas. When Stan Cohen called me, my gas could be heard all the way to downtown San Diego. Because I'm like, oh my God, it's Max Bialystock. You know what I mean? It's not like it's, oh, we can toss this person and toss this person in. And I'll never forget our designer run, you sitting with the designers and just saying all your lines from a chair while Larry and everybody just acted around you, you know, an empty space. And sure enough, I mean, really the only thing that you had to alter was
that opening number.
The opening number and the Guten Tag. Clap, clap. You couldn't do the hoedown.
I couldn't skip.
Couldn't skip.
I couldn't do the hop, skip, hops. Yeah, that was too much pressure on it. But we didn't really alter. I sort of dancer marked the finale with Larry.
Right.
And Guten Tag, hop, clap. But that wasn't so bad because it's not about me. It's about Franz.
But Max never leaves the stage in Act One. He's in every scene. You don't get to breathe until like the top of Act Two, and then you get your break during springtime. But other than that, Max is never leaves the stage. And
I have to say, I was really proud of myself to have made it through that. But I was so focused, and I had been working on that show for months because I was directing a show down in Long Beach. So I would listen to our show to producers on that commute. So I was getting off book on all my songs. I was getting off book. Bets helped me when I stayed with you for a little bit during the first part of rehearsals. She was really helpful at getting me off book. So I was really in it and focused. And when I broke that foot, I'm like, let's see if I can make it. I think I can, but I was like laser focused.
And then to add insult to injury, you were directing Matilda. So you had no day off on the rest of the times where actors had day off. You were in rehearsals for Matilda, which was your directing debut at Moonlight last summer.
Yeah.
And why don't you talk a little bit about what Matilda was like?
That was one of my dreams, not only to direct that show, but to direct with you guys. And I love me a good kids show. I love working with the kids, and San Diego has such an incredible pool of talent.
Yeah.
Not just adults, the kids too. Yeah. The kids are great. So that was a particularly strong group of kids. And and I think the more we got into that show, the more we discovered there's a lot more to this show than you think. And working with Ellen McMahon and Kline and finding all those moments that are in that show that are not there necessarily on the page, but when you hear the music and you talk about where you want to go artistically, that was such a journey that broke my heart. And it started from the auditions. Right when Charity came in. Remember that? I was a mess.
You were a mess.
I was a mess. I started crying immediately.
Yeah.
Broke my heart. She broke my heart. And I thought, God, that's what this needs. It needs all these kids to be, bigger than big. And that kid to go, and she just killed me.
Well, that whole process of casting, because like you said, there were, with the exception of Matilda, there were 8 kids. And we saw over 200 for those 8 roles, for 4 boys and 4 girls. And we could have cast the show 4 times over.
We could have. That's
how talented those children were.
We definitely could have. I had a couple of favorites in there that I just really wanted. And I will say there was a lot of kids that it was disappointing for me to let go.
Yeah.
Just didn't have enough kids roles, but they were so special too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was nice. I got to see Charity not too long ago with Ashley. We had ice cream.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it was really sweet.
Speaking of Ashley, someone who brought with charity. Such heart.
Yeah,
That-
Ashley Lincoln Fox. Yeah, she's exquisite. That
Yeah.
voice. Yeah, it's when my husband Chuck comes to see a show, because he's Mr. Music Major. Not anymore. He works for Disney in a whole different department, but he still thinks like he's a music major. When he heard her sing, he was like, because she submitted. She submitted.
That's right.
Right. She sent a video, and he was watching TV, and I was watching the videos, and he muted the TV, and he said, "Play that again. Who is that?" I said, "That's Ashley Linton Fox." And he goes, "She's the one." I'm like, yeah, she is. Yes, she is. She was so good. It was so good.
And then you had the privilege of working with Randy, and you guys have had a relationship, obviously.
So easy. What a joy to work with.
What a joy. I mean, and then I think one of your discoveries was Kevin.
Well, he was a discovery to me because I had never seen him. You had all known him, but when he walked in the door and did what he did, I was like, that's him. That's oh my God. And I told his wife, I don't know if you know this, but I told his wife at the end on our closing night party of Matilda, I said, just so you know, I want him in every show I ever do. Every show. Because what a dream. He's so brilliant. And his mind is never stopping. It's always working to make it better. He's really good at communicating so that you can find a way together. I'm a huge fan. Huge.
Well, one thing I loved, because you brought up the Wards earlier, is that I was taught a certain school of comedy and vaudeville burlesque type, thing with Don when I played Allie Hackham at the Moonlight, and he taught me all his hat tricks, all that stuff that they don't teach anymore, that old school showbiz. And to watch you pass that baton and that legacy to Kevin, who like slurped it up, you know what I mean? I mean, the only other person is like Luke Harvey Jacobs. I remember directing him as Scuttle, a role you played. He just I kept saying, they don't teach this anymore. And it was just fascinating to watch Kevin. I mean, that just fit him like a glove. All that side shifting and kicks.
Well, it's also in the music. It's in the understory. It's right there. So it's like an exclamation point at the end of his scenes, and it goes bah, and it has all that music.
Yeah.
So to hear it and to have him just turn and walk, you're like, yeah, need something.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a very special show.
Yeah.
And I think it surprised people who didn't know it, because like, oh, they're so mean to the kids. I'm like, well, that's Roald Dahl. It's Charlie Chocolate Factory. That's how he writes. But those kids always come out on top and always come out as the winner.
There's always heart. Always. Yeah.
Beautiful. And so this summer was to be Something Rotten. And we had talked at the top of the interview about it's sad because we did have another great company that did include Randy as Nostradamus and Kevin as William Shakespeare. And it would have been insane to see what those two men and you and Colleen would have come up with, and Lyndon. But, we'll do it another time. So I've kind of ended these interviews with, is there one show that you never have directed that is a bucket list for you?
Yeah. This probably be a surprise to you, but it's Dear Evan Hansen. And
really?
I know it's not a yeah. I don't know why. Chuck had bought the soundtrack way before I had seen it. And he likes to play some Broadway show soundtracks in the car while we drive. And yeah, I'm talking about you. I'm talking about you and Dear Evan Hansen.
Oh.
And I loved that music so much, and it was very moving, just the soundtrack. And then when I was on tour with Little Mermaid, my dresser from Billy Elliot was his dresser, And so he got me house seats. So because I was so close with the tour, I could just take a 2-hour bus ride into New York, see the show, and I fell in love with it. And I think I fell in love with it because it tapped so deep into my heart. Again, it's sort of the same thing as Matilda, how it's an outcast, and maybe that's what draws me, to look at that person who's an outcast, but he's a bit of an outcast. She's an outcast. It's just so powerful, that show. And I loved it. So yeah, isn't that funny?
Yeah.
That, and I would like to pass the baton to someone younger. So I would like to direct Me and My Girl.
Oh.
I do want to do that. And I think who I would love in that part.
I do know who.
I won't say it out loud, but perfect.
Yeah.
Right? A couple of tap lessons. We got it. Let's go.
I'm telling you, I remember that summer you did it at Moonlight. Betts was playing Annie Oakley that summer in Annie Get Your Gun. And when we sat and watched you in that show, we'd seen you do it several times before, but Betts was so jealous that she was not your Sally. She was like the whole show. She was writhing. She's like, oh, I want to be on that stage with Jamie. But that would be, okay, that answers my next question. Like, is there a dream actor you would like to work with? And I think that's pretty special. Well, I want to thank you for your time, Jamie. It's just good to see your face. Give Chuck a hug, give your boys a hug, and we'll get through this. And
yes. How are you holding up? You okay?
Oh yeah. We're I think Betts had a realization the other day. Like, I don't think we've ever had lunch this much in our lives before, because I always have to go to the office. So we've been, we're getting through it, and just being, like you said, being grateful for what we have, and it's all good. Like, I'm grateful tonight because Betts is making escargot and steak frite. So
that sounds like that's not on anyone's diet.
No, it's not. No, it's not. But at any rate, we love you, Jamie. Thank you for your time, and have a wonderful quarantine.
I will. You too.
I love you.
Can't wait to hug you.
Bye. Okay. Bye-bye.